3 teams were given a budget of $15,000 to build a vehicle to compete for a chance to represent onX Offroad on this year's Ultimate Adventure and to participate in the onX Offroad Build Challenge.
We took a bone stock S10 and turned it into this amazing rock crawler.
The vehicles were tested, the teams were tested, and in the end, one team was crowned the winner.
When we got the Zoom call invite, I wasn't expecting it to just be me and Matt. I was expecting it to be all of the competitors. And when he told us that we won, I was super excited.
Finding out that we won on that Zoom call, I was not expecting it. I was amazed. I was ready to hit the road and get it done.
Colt and Matt from Team Bleepin Jeep were headed to the start of Ultimate Adventure, a week-long off-road adventure-filled trip with scenic drives and hard trails.
When I was in high school, Ultimate Adventure started, and I've always wanted to be a part of it. I always thought, you know, that's like the premier thing to hit, if you could ever do it, was to get that windshield banner on your windshield.
I've been waiting 20 years to put one of these on my windshield.
And it was definitely a dream come true to know that I won it and that we were going to be on it.
All right, we just had our driver's meeting and we are getting ready to head out for the first day of UA1.
So the way Ultimate Adventure works, every single day you have a driver's meeting. They tell us we're going to go on the road right out the gate. And we drive for an hour and a half, and we get to a place called Rock Run Recreation Area. I'd never heard of this park before, and I don't think anybody else there had either.
Apparently it had been a like ATV side-by-side park, but they're starting to make more trails for Jeeps and full-size vehicles. They had some really cool rock runs, and I guess that's why they call it Rock Run.
On that day, some of the rigs had a few breakdowns. The welders got out, things got worked on. Fortunately, we drove through the obstacles that we put in front of this thing and were able to drive up everything. We didn't take a winch, we didn't have to stack rocks, we were able to drive all that stuff. And it just goes to show that the S10 was what I expected it to be. It was a really good rig to take on Ultimate Adventure.
There you go.
The next morning we got up early and it was a road day. Matt and I wanted to have something fun to dress up in on any road day we had.
As you know, here at Bleepin Jeep, we are never serious, so we decided to dress up in our 90s outfits again for a road day. What we didn't know is we were going to be going to see the Flight 93. This is where the flight during 9/11 crashed in Pennsylvania. We were dressed in 90s gear, which probably wasn't super appropriate.
We made a lot of people laugh that day. In a sombering situation, we made a lot of people laugh, a lot of people smiled, a lot of people took pictures of us.
But we made the best of it. We gave a few people some laughs.
So day 4, we wake up and we are at the Good Evening Ranch. This place has been on my radar for a while, only because I'm into extreme rock crawling. Trails they have there are Cripple Creek, Cadillac, Copperhead. They have a Rubicon trail out there that we did that was just this rad boulder field that you're climbing up this hill. So they have a Rubicon of the East, and I was able to drive it. Only a few of us drove all of that Rubicon trail, so I feel really blessed to be able to do that.
The Good Evening Ranch was a little bit too much for the S10. It beat its way through, but there was a lot of damage, including my door. Colt squeezed the truck through this really narrow, tight obstacle and ended up falling off, slamming the door. I didn't think that the door was going to open after that. I thought I'd be crawling through the window if there was one. Luckily, it did not break the window. It did not break the door. It still worked, just a little bit of damage. I was really surprised at all the vehicles that were there. A lot of them look like classic cars. but underneath they were really built well, and they went through the obstacles pretty much unscathed on quite a few of them. Some of them got body damage here and there, some of them took bypasses, but overall every build out there seemed to be built really well.
All right, well, it's well past dinner time. I think we're calling it a day, but I don't know. We'll find out. We've been wheeling all day. We've wheeled all over this park, and there are still tons left to do out here if we had more time.
All right, so day 5, we hit the road once again, and we travel for a few hours and arrive at the Hatfield and McCoy Trail System. This one in particular was called Ivy Branch.
In UA fashion, road days turn into off-road days. Ivy Branch was supposed to be a road day, and that was a very technical set of trails. We went into a trail called Butcher Block that only about 5 rigs did, and fortunately I was one of the rigs to be able to go into it. I did take a little bit of body damage in that trail, but you get to drive through a cave, you drive out of a cave. I did have to take a winch on one spot where it was just too big of a climb with a weighted down truck that I just wanted to try to make sure I could save my axle shafts, and I just took a winch to pop my front end up. So one of the things I wanted to make sure I did was not take a single bypass, and sometimes that required me having to take a winch. Fortunately, I had my Warn winch that I had rebuilt because they have a huge backlog of parts that you can do whatever you want. So my used Warn winch, even though it looks old on the outside, is new on the inside, and it worked just like a brand new winch, pulling me up anything I needed to pull up.
It's one of the cool things that I think a lot of people love about UA is they get to wheel places and parks and scenery that they've never seen before or would never otherwise go to, because there's a lot of thought put into where they're going to go and places that a lot of people have never experienced.
onX Offroad actually had sponsored the Hatfield McCoy trails. So when we pulled up on those, we could immediately pull up the app and see all the trails that were open to not just our full sizes, but to side-by-sides and single-track dirt bikes all at the same time. Today though, we got a police escort to the trailhead. So next morning we got up and we went to another part of the Hatfield McCoy system called Bear Wallow.
Bear Wallow wasn't quite as difficult as the previous trail system, but it was very beautiful, very scenic.
The trails in Bear Wallow were mostly all hill climbs. They were big hill climbs with rocks. The one trail that really stuck out in my mind, it was hot and humid, and it had a cave, and that cave blew ice cold air out of it. That is like 20-degree weather. It feels amazing. I had nothing but great things to say about how this S10 did. To start out with a $1,200 truck that didn't even have four-wheel drive that worked, to be able to get as far as we have, drive these hard off-road miles and still drive hard day miles, what really impressed me. I'm actually really shocked at how well this truck did, and that I haven't had a transmission or a motor issue for something that has 220,000+ miles on it at this point. So it's day 6. We just had the drivers meeting.
Cabwaylingo trail system, also part of the Hatfield and McCoy trail system. This one was not as difficult as either of the previous two, but what's really cool about a lot of the Hatfield McCoy systems is that you can go from one to the next to the next. They're kind of interconnected.
We went through some tunnels and we started on the Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway, which has been on my bucket list for a long time. That's not real challenging, but it's mud and rocks and just tight trails that run through parts of Kentucky. Yukon Gear and Axle is my go-to company when I need to do gears, lockers, things like that. Everything held up great. I didn't have any issues at all with the gears. I didn't have any issues with my lockers or my axle shafts. Everything held up strong, and we were able to get through all the trails and all the road miles without having to work on any of the axle stuff.
All right, last day, we get up and we head on over to the Hollywood Off-Road Park. This is one that I've actually done before. It's a really cool park with a lot of cool obstacles, a lot of neat washes, a lot of rock climbs.
Ultimate Adventure's motto is wheel for the week. And so the last day, you can go free, right? You don't have to baby your rig anymore. You know that it's the last day. You don't have any road miles ahead of you. You can actually use everything you got and lay it out all on the table. So the first trail we did was Widowmaker. It has some big boulders in it. The S10 was able to crawl through all of them without taking a single dent. There were a few rigs that broke that day. I know the welder got out. The next trail we hit was Carburetor Hill, which has it's a high risk to reward obstacle. It's a very tall, steep rock with multiple climbs, and if you mess up, if you slide sideways on there, it could be a really bad day really quick. It was almost a blur because the days start blending together. You don't even know what you're doing or where you're going, and you're trying to remember all the stuff you've done and where you've been. And it was just a super cool experience. I feel nothing short of blessed that onX Offroad reached out to us and asked us to be part of this build challenge. It was really cool that they thought we would be able to be a part of this, that we could bring something to the table that would compete against these other builders.
We've done the ultimate adventure. We did everything from Pennsylvania, West Virginia,
Maryland, Kentucky.
It's a dream come true, and I'm really thankful that onX Offroad was willing to let us do that.
So now you've seen our competitors compete in this one-of-a-kind competition. Do you think you have what it takes to tackle an onX Offroad Build Challenge? Scan the code on the screen to head to the link to find out how you can participate in the next onX Offroad Build Challenge.